Paul McCartney rocked Market Square Arena last night for about 2.5 hours. He's back tonight for a second sold-out show. It is McCartney's second trip to Indianapolis. His last appearance here was in 1964 with the Beatles. All those years ago, the Beatles made headlines with their music and their free-form news conferences. Well, just about an hour ago, Paul McCartney met with the local media and proved, despite the passing of 25-plus years, he still has his charm. He's 47 years old now. Once a teen idol, he's now a legend. But the boyish grin and the quick wit remain.
Hi. Is it warm enough? Jacket off? Yeah, go for it. Right.
Paul McCartney says it's good to be back in Indianapolis, a place he calls a friendly city. He says he has memories of the day in August of 1964 when the Beatles invaded Indianapolis and got into a bit of mischief.
I remember a couple of guys went out with a couple of policemen and stayed up all night drinking. That's my memory.
Were you one of the guys?
No, it was the other guys. I was sensible. I went to bed.
When he last toured in 1976, Paul played only a handful of Beatles tunes. This time around, he's playing about 15. McCartney says the last 14 years have put those songs in a different light.
We had that period after the breakup of the Beatles where everyone got away from Beatles stuff, and it was like, you know, it was like a divorce, and it was like the old wife, you know, and we just didn't want to know about that period. Or at least we wanted to try and distance ourselves from it so that there would be some life after Beatles, you know, because it was looking dodgy at one point. It was looking like we could never follow that act. But we all managed to in various ways, you know. But now the thing is, there's enough time gone down that there's no bad feeling now, you know. So when I just look at those songs, I just look at them as it's either a good song or a bad song.
Well, the news conference ended about 15, well, actually about 25 minutes ago now. We'll have more at 11 o'clock. A couple of things he did talk about. He'd like to see George and Ringo get back together with him. He's made that clear in the past, and he said that he's hoping that they can resolve their differences and do something, he said, in private. It won't be a real public thing like the Grammy Awards. Some think they might get together on the Grammy Awards. He said that won't happen.
George doesn't want to anyway, so we'll have to see if George agrees to go. Okay.
Maybe in time. And he also says he will keep recording. He says he keeps trying to write that elusive, perfect song, so look for more music from Paul McCartney. I think we all welcome that news.
Oh, sure, and I was there last night. He is gray now, but he's still got all his hair, so that's good.
Still has that smile, doesn't he?
He's still very boyish, yes, and in his quality came across, yeah. Yeah, terrific.
We got to tell you, George Bush has not started his news conference.
McCartney took to the stage at Market Square Arena, and even before the music started, you could hear the roar of the crowd. The ticket promoters say the McCartney concert reminds them of the Rolling Stones show not long ago, with songs that have become legendary. And the fans heard the best of two kinds of music, old hits from the Beatles and the latest from McCartney himself. And about an hour ago, McCartney sat down with some reporters at a news conference before tonight's performance, and our Deb Darnell was there. Deb, what'd you think of him?
Well, Barbara, he looks impressive, he speaks impressively, and yet he's also a very laid-back person. He tells us he's having simply a good time on tour, and he plans to travel again like this in the years to come. He's also dropping hints of future projects with former members of the Beatles. Well, first we talked to Paul about the tour itself, and here's some of what he had to say.
You know, the first time we came over here, we played L.A., Chicago, and New York, in America anyway. And this time we're playing the kind of what I'd call the more people-y cities. You know, because L.A. and New York particularly are very sophisticated, and Chicago to some degree is pretty sophisticated. So you get a lot of rich people, you get a lot of yuppies or whatever, you know. There's nothing wrong with them, but they're maybe not as good an audience as you'd like. So I like coming to places that are a bit more people-y, you know.
Later, we asked McCartney about getting together with those former Beatles.
But I wouldn't rule out the fact that maybe George, me, and Ringo might get together and play some music somewhere quietly. But it certainly won't happen like as public directly as the Grammys or somewhere. We'd have to get to know each other before that, you know. It's been a long time. But I think, you know, the actual reunion question is a no-no. But anything else might happen. We've got a film project we've been talking about for a long time that might be something we could get together on.
Tonight's show, another start at 8 o'clock, a sellout or very close to it. But Barbara, of course, if you're bound to see him, you can always look to the scalpers for that. But McCartney says he'd get rid of the scalpers if he could. Doesn't like them.
Okay, Deb, what did you think about him? Did you go in with any kind of preconceived notions of what you thought he might be like?
Well, I won't fool you. I was excited to see him. He looks very, very good. Those boyish eyes are great to watch. And as I said, he's very laid back and very comfortable talking about himself and talking about the Beatles, too. There's no hard feelings, no problems talking about the old songs or the old people that he used to work with. So he's really come around.
First person to win 12 and Something Extra nominee is coming up.
In 26 years, David McCartney says the ex-Beatle has one big recollection of that first time.
Sellouts on 4 continents.
Thank you, ma'am.
Millions of die-hard fans.
It's taken me how many years to see Paul McCartney? 64, 16, 26 years, yeah. I'm real excited.
And that enduring sound. 3 ingredients in the Friends of the Earth World Tour, plus 1 more.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
This is the second leg of Paul McCartney's world tour, and Indianapolis marks a turning point.
The first time we came over here, we played L.A., Chicago, and New York, in America anyway. And this time we're playing the kind of what I'd call the more people-y cities.
Cities like Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
It's kind of more exciting for us to come back on this leg of the tour because we're playing, you know, Detroit, Cincinnati, Indianapolis. It's more mid-America kind of thing.
I need somebody help.
McCartney was last year as a Beatle in 1964, but he has few memories of that Indy visit.
I remember a couple of guys went out with a couple of policemen and stayed up all night drinking.
20 years since the Beatles. Is it time now for a reunion, maybe at this year's Grammy?
Somebody asked George, will there be a Beatles reunion? And he said, no, not as long as John Lennon's dead. But I wouldn't rule out the fact that maybe George, me, and Ringo might get together and play some music somewhere quietly.
Till then, he'll go it alone. David McAnally, News Center 13.
People headed to the concert will enjoy themselves. I have to take exception with Jill Warren's review in the Star this morning. I thought it was a very exciting show.
Was his voice a little rough?
A little hoarse. She was right on that. She had seen him in Chicago. Maybe that's why the excitement level was down. But she and I agree on the fact that Sgt. Pepper is a killer tune. You'll love it.
He's so unaffected, too.
Yeah.
Recorded, and by the time we were ready to kind of tour with them, we'd broken up as a touring band, and we're just recording. So things like Hey Jude and Sgt. Pepper and Fool on the Hill are like brand new songs to me. It's very nice.
She lives right here in Indianapolis. We'll meet.
I got it made. I know it. Big time made.
Scoring machine. Okay, guys, thanks a lot.
Thanks. Let's find out now what's coming up at 5:30 with Patty and Ken.
Mike and Debbie, we're going to head on a magical mystery tour, and we're not even going to leave central Indiana. Can you believe that?
I believe it if you tell me it's true.
The icy roads, you got to stay home anyway, right? Coming up next on our 5:30 news, one of the true legends in music is in Indianapolis tonight for a concert. Former Beatle Paul McCartney will be on the stage for the first of 2 shows to play a concert at the State Fairgrounds. Now, let's shuttle ahead 25 and a half years. The long and winding road brings Paul McCartney back to Indianapolis. Now a former Beatle and a rock and roll legend, McCartney will play 2 sold-out shows at Market Square Arena beginning tonight. Yes, Paul is in town. The concert is now just 2.5 hours away, and the anxiety is building.
And in just a moment, we'll meet some people who wish they could see McCartney.
Paul McCartney's critically acclaimed world tour is in Market Square Arena for the next 2 nights. And the last time the 47-year-old singer stepped foot on Hoosier soil, the world was a different place.
May I present the Beatles!
Back in 1964, TV crews shot in black and white and on film. Paul McCartney was a mere lad from Liverpool, the dream of girls, the envy of boys. The screams were just as loud 12 years later in 1976 when a now married Paul McCartney toured America, but not Indianapolis, with his band Wings. Tonight, with a new band, McCartney comes full circle. A figure of 8, if you will. Hoosiers aren't the only ones excited about McCartney's appearance here. This man took the week off, drove down from London, Ontario, and bought a ticket for $100 this afternoon.
My friends are Beatle fans. They wish they could afford it and go, but some of them think I'm really nuts.
And how about these guys? They're from Atlanta, Georgia. They've been following McCartney all around the country. Using vacation time, they're seeing as many shows as they can get in.
Right now, we're talking 2, 4, 5, and there'll be 5 more that we have tickets in hand for. We call it the Fans on the Run tour.
Yeah, I'd rather do this with my vacation than sit around on the beach.
This afternoon, with showtime still 5 hours away, scalpers were asking $100 for tickets, and there were rumors of prime seats going for $200. Scalpers have this market cornered. So let's pretend I wanted tickets to the show. Are there any left?
No.
No tickets at all?
None whatsoever.
And this Greenwood man wonders what all the fuss is about. I had to explain to him who Paul McCartney is. Can you believe people are paying up to $200 a ticket to see Paul McCartney?
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
$200?
Uh-huh.
Well, they shouldn't complain about paying $29 for a Colts ticket then, should they?
I guess not, Norman. The show starts tonight at 8 o'clock at MSA. It includes 15 Beatles songs. Paul will do Fool on the Hill, Eleanor Rigby, and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It's a great show, and, you know, if you love the Beatles, this may be the last hurrah. Paul McCartney's 47. It's been 13 years since he toured last. And something to point out, he's had some voice problems in the past couple of weeks, and he's cut a few songs out of the tour, the last few shows he's done, so it'll be interesting to see if he's back to full shape tonight and if he can do a full show for us.
And you saw him in Chicago just recently?
Great show. We'll talk some more about that later.
Oh, good. Well, it has been about 13, 14 years.
And beginning in just a few minutes, we'll have Stan Wood and the weather.
That's right.
But first, two of the shows will be their memories of the Beatles. 26 years ago, the Beatles made their only appearance in Indiana. And as our Neil Moore reports, the 2 State Fair concerts recall many memories.
This was the scene in 1964 when the Beatles came to Indianapolis. There to provide security and serve as an escort was Indiana State Police Trooper Jack Marks. As the group took to the stage in the Fairgrounds Coliseum, Marks saw and heard something that would change America.
May I present the Beatles!
The noise level was just unbelievable. I would say for the biggest part, you couldn't even hear them playing.
Marks says Ringo was funny, George aloof, John a wise guy, and Paul the crowd favorite.
Yeah, he was the ladies' choice, I would say, out of the bunch, because they would scream, Paul, Paul, you know. And
doesn't this sometimes scare you just a little?
No, you're joking. It wouldn't scare me at all. Probably scare me if nothing had happened, you know.
But something did happen, something very big. The images from a quarter of a century ago remain vivid. The long hair, the screaming girls, packed news conferences, guarded hotels, brazen fans hoping for an autograph or anything the Beatles might have touched.
They were certainly an impact on the American teenager at the time, who is now the American adult running for office.
In some ways, the generation gap has not narrowed. 39-year-old Bob Cavoyan is an admitted Beatles fanatic. 60-year-old Jack Marks is no lover of rock and roll.
no, I never really did care for it then, and I don't now.
But Marks found the Beatles likable lads. Most of us did. And because of John Lennon's murder, a genuine Beatles reunion will never happen. But the Paul McCartney concerts will take us very close to that magic, close to the days of our youth. In Indianapolis, Neil.
Billings tonight. It's been more than a quarter century since Paul McCartney last set foot on Hoosier soil. Tonight, more than 17,000 people let him know they haven't forgotten the lad from Liverpool. This was the scene as McCartney took the stage. We'll hear hear more from the McCartney concert in just a moment. First, a look, though, at the fans who made up that sellout crowd tonight, some of whom have been waiting for this night for years, if not decades. The first thing you notice about the crowd is the age range. Older people, young people, even little kids came for a taste of Beatlemania 1990 style. What do you know about Paul McCartney?
That he used to be a Beatle, one of the Beatles.
McCartney's 47, and it's hard to believe it's been 20 years since the Fab Four went their separate ways. He last toured in 1976. He performed only a handful of Beatle tunes then, but this time around, half his show is a blast from the mop-topped past. And that pleases fans. These two guys became Beatle fans in 1975. They were 8 then. The band had broken up 5 years before, but that didn't matter. These music students say the Beatles are timeless.
Well, for one thing, they use real instruments. Yeah, they don't have synthetic sounds. They have feeling, meaning. Yeah, they have feeling and soul. Now you plug in a machine and you put in words and you have a song.
For this Indianapolis woman, a $28 ticket was a passport to a simpler time.
May I present the Beatles!
In the summer of 1964, the Beatles made their only Indianapolis concert appearances at the State Fairgrounds. 12-year-old Bridget Lake, her 2 cousins, and a friend had front row seats.
It was just the greatest day.
That's right. The same Bridget Lake attended the McCartney show Wednesday. It's been 25.5 years, but once a Beatlemaniac, always a Beatlemaniac.
I'm the one on the very end that has the most embarrassing footage that appalled my 4-year-old son today, who couldn't believe it was me.
Are you going to scream and shake your hair again tonight?
It's very possible. I think seeing that Beatles thing all over again and seeing Paul, who was every young girl's favorite again, is going to be a highlight tonight.
You got me running in a bigger bag. Don't know if I'm coming or going, I'm burning your leg. Round and round every week I go. I gotta know. Is it better to love one another than to go for a walk in the dark? Walk in the dark. Is it better to love than to give it away?
Still rocking at 47.
Great, yeah. Yes, he does. Now, earlier we heard that scalpers were getting up to $200 a ticket. Did that hold true?
Those were for the prime seats, and earlier today they were indeed getting about $100 a seat, Mike, but scalpers told me they had a very bad night. They were getting about $30 a ticket. That's about face value. By the end of the night, 5 minutes before showtime, tickets were going for $5 or $10. Face value was about $30 again.
They want to get out of the rain
before the show, and about 20 minutes into the show, there were still scalpers outside wandering around with aimless looks on their faces.
Bad planning.